we must replace.
Tonight, New York lawmakers tell the governor to resign or face impeachment, plus how federal agents figured out Eliot Spitzer may be Client 9. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, did the White House deep six a high-ranking Navy man? The top commander in the Middle East, Admiral William Fallon, abruptly quits. We'll tell you why. America's teens and sexually transmitted diseases. A new report says 1 out of every 4 girls has one. And take this job and help's wanted, the pay's good. Why aren't more people applying?
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. New York Governor Eliot Spitzer once called himself a steamroller, but tonight political opponents are hoping to steamroll him out of office over his involvement with a prostitution ring. Even some allies are now calling for him to step aside, and it looks as if they'll get their wish, and soon. Our national correspondent Byron Pitts begins our coverage tonight.
Governor Spitzer, what's next?
CBS News has learned from 3 separate sources. It's no longer a matter of if New York's Governor Eliot Spitzer will resign, but when. It could happen, we're told, as early as tomorrow morning. The pressure is building from all sides.
Governor Spitzer has to resign. He violated his oath of office.
Today, holed up in his posh Upper East Side apartment with his wife and lawyers, Spitzer is said to be negotiating a deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office. The end game? In exchange for avoiding felony charges in connection with this high-priced prostitution service, Spitzer would step down as governor.
I will report back to you in short order.
But it's a legal deal with a political deadline if state Republican lawmakers have their way.
If the governor does not resign, and I hope that's not the case, we've said that within 24 to 48 hours, we're going to ask the Speaker of the New York State Assembly to call upon articles of impeachment.
Spitzer's fall from grace made headlines in the tabloids, the mainstream press, even overseas. It's a collapse made swift by the governor's own take no prisoners, need no friends style of politics. As New York's Attorney General, he went after corporations, mobsters, and pimps with equal venom. Power, wealth, a wife of more than 20 years, 3 teenage daughters. He had it all.
Eliot Spitzer, a hero to people because he took on Wall Street. He seemed to take on the powerful. But the person who beat him ultimately wasn't Wall Street. It wasn't a political opponent. It was Eliot Spitzer.
Spitzer's advisors have also met with Lieutenant Governor David Paterson, the man who would step in if Spitzer steps down.
I think it'll be very effective. He has an ability, a knack for getting along with people. Do not mistake that for softness, because he's as tough as they come.
Patterson also met privately with Republican state lawmakers today. As for Spitzer, Katie, based on everyone we spoke with today, it's hard to see how he survives as governor much longer.
All right, Byron Pitts. Byron, thank you. Meanwhile, federal agents linked Spitzer to the prostitution ring by following a money trail that may have totaled $80,000. Call it Detective Work 101, something the governor knew all about from his days as a prosecutor and state attorney general. Our chief investigative correspondent, Armin Katayan, continues our coverage.
CBS News has learned the investigation into Spitzer was sparked last summer by a SAR, short for a suspicious activity report filed by a financial institution. Law enforcement officials say the report, created to alert them to money laundering by drug dealers and terrorists, sent up red flags at this Long Island IRS office. In tracing the unusual movements of money linked to Spitzer, agents discovered it was not political corruption as suspected, but a prostitution ring. A sitting governor allegedly going to great lengths to hide the transfer of thousands of dollars in cash into the accounts of shell companies through HSBC and other banks.
According to court papers, the shell companies QAT Consulting Group and QAT International turned out to be fronts for Emperor's Club VIP, the now notorious high-priced online prostitution ring featuring 50 so-called models, catering to the needs of a worldwide clientele.
Through a court-authorized wiretap, the FBI allegedly implicated Spitzer as Client 9 of the ring operating out of this brownstone in Brooklyn, New York. As part of a 47-page complaint filed against 4 people arrested in the case last week, Client 9's needs and desires are laid out in sordid detail. A tryst at this glitzy Washington, D.C. hotel on the eve of Valentine's Day. Waiting in room 871, a pretty petite brunette named Kristen, a $1,000 an hour call girl. At 9:36 p.m., Kristen reported client 9 was coming to her at the hotel. By 12:02 a.m., after all was said and done, Kristen told a booker she had collected $4,300 to clear up an outstanding balance and then some, adding she liked the client with a reputation as difficult, who sometimes asked to do things you might not think were safe, very basic things.
Of the subprime mortgage debt.
The next morning, the governor testified at this bond investment hearing on Capitol Hill, revealing nothing of a side Elliot Spitzer evidently tried so hard to hide. Armin Katayan, CBS News, New York.
Now to presidential politics, and the focus is on Mississippi tonight, the last primary until Pennsylvania holds its contest in 6 weeks. 33 delegates are at stake, and Barack Obama is heavily favored to win. We'll have the latest now from Dean Reynolds.
How's it going, Mississippi?
Barack Obama knows a victory in Mississippi today won't pack that much of a political punch, but a win is a win. There's no better way to keep his delegate lead and turn off Hillary Clinton's momentum. Obama has been fighting what he calls the Clinton kitchen sink strategy that counts on at least one of many charges sticking to him. He dismisses it as tired tactics straight from the Republican playbook.
The same old folks doing the same old things, talking the same old stuff.
Clinton campaigned in Mississippi too, but expectations there were not as high as her hopes for Pennsylvania. Which is why she was in Harrisburg today instead of Hattiesburg, hammering away at Obama for what she said was double talk on big issues.
There's a big difference between talk and action, but if you're going to talk, then you ought to mean what you say so people can count on it.
Obama's campaign has reacted sharply to the comments of Geraldine Ferraro, the former Democratic Party vice presidential nominee and current Clinton supporter, who has suggested repeatedly that Obama's success is due to his race.
If Barack Obama were a white man, would we be talking about this as a potential real problem for Hillary? If he were a woman of any color, would he be in this position that he's in? Absolutely not.
While Hillary Clinton said she disagreed with Ferraro, the Obama campaign said it was part of a pattern to diminish him. And late today, the senator himself said Ferraro's words were divisive, patently absurd, and have no place in our politics or in the Democratic Party. Dean Reynolds, CBS News, Chicago.
Some pretty shocking health news today about teenagers. According to a new report by the CDC, at least 1 in 4 teenage girls in America has a sexually transmitted disease. That means more than 3 million girls are infected. Dr. John LaPook has more.
According to today's study, a lot of American teenagers are not getting the message about safe sex.
There's an extraordinarily high burden of infection. Almost all adolescent women who begin to be sexually active are at risk for infection.
Of the more than 800 teenage girls interviewed, about half were sexually active. Of those, 40% had a sexually transmitted illness. Almost half of African American girls were infected. The most common by far was human papillomavirus, or HPV, at 18%. Second was chlamydia.
You'd think in this day and age, with all the sex education, HIV education that we've put out to kids and to adults in this country, that these preventable types of infections would be on the downturn.
Experts hope today's report encourages more discussion among teens, parents, and doctors.
And this might be a tough conversation for some parents, but this is their kids' health and also their future health.
These are serious diseases, and as you know, Katie, HPV can cause cervical cancer.
So are experts hoping, though, John, with this HPV vaccine that came out about a year and a half ago, that the number of incidents of that particular STD, which accounts for the majority of them in teenage girls, will decline?
Absolutely. You know, Katie, it's an effective vaccine. And by the way, they're trying to develop the same vaccine for boys. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does make sense. I'm still shocked that half of teenage girls are sexually active.
It is surprising, and it underscores the importance for parents to be aggressive about starting the conversation. There aren't going to be too many teenagers who go up to their parents and say, Mom, Dad, isn't it time that we had a discussion about sexually transmitted illnesses?
Yeah, well, I know what I'll be talking about at the dinner table tonight. John LaPook, thanks, John. Meanwhile, a warning today for parents about a powerful and sometimes deadly cough medicine. It's the prescription drug Tussinex, which contains the narcotic hydrocodone. The FDA issued an alert about it today, warning that it should not be used in children under 6 and should only be taken every 12 hours. Meanwhile, one of America's top military commanders is resigning. Admiral William Fallon, the head of Central Command, which oversees the Middle East, will leave at the end of the month after a magazine article suggested he was standing in the way of U.S. military action in Iran. David Martin has more from the Pentagon tonight.
The commander of U.S. forces in the Middle East, who by his own account was in hot water with the White House, quit today. In the middle of a visit to Iraq, Admiral William Fox Fallon called Defense Secretary Gates and submitted his resignation, citing a recent magazine article which portrayed him as the lone voice of reason in an administration hell-bent on war with Iran. Secretary Gates insisted Fallon had not been pressured to resign.
Admiral Fallon reached this difficult decision entirely on his own.
He also insisted Fallon was not the odd man out when it came to war with Iran.
We've all talked about all options being on the table, but we've also focused on the importance of pursuing economic and diplomatic pressures against Iran. So I don't think that there really were differences at all.
Gates has made no secret he, too, is opposed to war with Iran, but Fallon all but ruled it out, telling Al Jazeera, I expect there will be no war. So does Fallon's departure clear the decks for another war?
The notion that this decision portends anything in terms of a change in Iran policy is, to quote myself, ridiculous.
Virtually every senior military officer is opposed to war with Iran, but from now on they might be more cautious about how they say it. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
On the CBS Money Watch, a big comeback on Wall Street today. The Dow gained 416 points, its biggest one-day rally in over 5 years, after the Fed announced plans to pump $200 billion into the markets to ease the credit crunch. And oil prices continue to soar, approaching $110 a barrel today before closing just under $109, even as experts predicted less demand for oil in the future. There is a lot more CBS News ahead, including what drives powerful men to cheat and why do their humiliated wives publicly support them. But up next, the gangs of LA. They're growing in numbers, and so is the violence. LA is taking a new approach in its long-running gang wars, and with good reason. Today, a 19-year-old gang member was charged with murder in a random, senseless killing. As he went to court, thousands of people gathered to remember the victim. Sandra Hughes reports now on the rise in fear and the cries for help in tonight's Eye on Crime.
An emotional farewell for a standout high school football star who was killed in broad daylight when he had no answer to the dreaded question, what gang are you from?
I'm mad and, I miss it,
Sergeant Anita Shaw returned from her second tour in Iraq to bury her 17-year-old son Jamil, who was never involved in a gang.
I really don't see a difference because to me gangs are nothing but terrorism.
Even in gang-hardened LA, Jamil's death is shocking, and it's just one in a string of recent shootings of innocent children.
I tried to pick him up and I was just yelling for help.
13-year-old Anthony Escobar was shot and killed picking lemons for dinner. 6-year-old Lavarie Elzy is in critical condition, shot in the head while riding in his family's SUV. And 5 kids were wounded in a gang shootout at a bus stop.
Our children are being shot down every damn day.
Officials are trying to calm fears that Black and Latino gang wars are heating up, but admit with 80,000 gang members in this city, the police need help.
You can't just arrest your way out of this problem. We got to support families. We've got to mentor kids.
What's your name?
To tackle the problem, the mayor appointed the city's first so-called gang czar, and his choice is somewhat surprising. A soft-spoken white evangelical minister.
Every single kid ought to know somebody believes in them,
they think they can make it. I'm going to work my tail off to see that happens in this city.
Before this job, Jeff Carr built a mentoring center next door to his church. Kids earn credits for doing homework, get tutored, and learn computer skills. Aspiring musician Mark Lopez knows where he'd be without this center.
I know this is going to be kind of corny, but in jail or dead.
Where do you
Carr's
go to school?
goal, more places like this for LA's kids and fewer innocent victims. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And when we come back, where the jobs are and why so many Americans don't want them. The news about the job market has been very gloomy for months now, but today there was a glimmer of hope. A survey by Manpower Inc. shows more than a quarter of U.S. companies expect to add jobs in the next quarter. And the truth is, despite everything you hear, there are high-paying positions available right now. Cynthia Bowers begins our series, Hard Times, Good Jobs.
Employees at Bison Gear and Engineering make motors for everything from dialysis machines to ice cream makers. The company has all the orders it can fill. What it can't fill are jobs.
Well, we have about a half a dozen openings right now. The business is there, and we have the capacity to expand it.
Bison isn't alone. With half the nation's 14 million manufacturing workers nearing retirement, 90% of America's manufacturers say they are short qualified workers.
Amazingly, these help wanted signs are going up at a time when the U.S. is hemorrhaging manufacturing jobs. Nearly 3 million have been lost just since President Bush took office in 2001.
The jobs going overseas, manufacturers say, are largely the low-skill assembly line kind. Those that remain are high-skilled, high-tech, and high-paying, around $60,000 a year plus benefits.
Every one of these machine tools that we use is about the price of a Ferrari. So you need to have good computer skills if you're going to work in high-tech manufacturing today.
But many kids coming out of high school aren't good enough at math and science or just aren't interested.
Have you ever considered a job in manufacturing?
I've not, never.
Why?
Because I just figured that kind of was an out-of-date career path.
What do you think of when you think of manufacturing?
Harder work, to be honest. I'm a talker, not a worker.
To help increase the labor pool, the industry is going into schools to update both its image and the curriculum.
What do we stand to lose by not having workers ready to step in?
More and more companies I'm talking to are not moving now for cheap labor. They're moving due to a lack of a labor force that can come in and do it.
That's what I call the American dream.
Jeremy Rashitsky says his job at Bison gives him security, even in these insecure times.
For myself, I see it as a good career and good money and having an American dream with this job.
Building his future around a job most Americans thought was a thing of the past. Cynthia Bowers, CBS News, St. Charles, Illinois.
And when we come back, standing by their men, why women stay with men who stray. The scandal involving New York Governor Eliot Spitzer has thrown a spotlight on a dark corner of politics, powerful men who cheat and the women who stand stoically by them. What makes these men who seem to have it all so reckless? And why do their wives put on such a brave public face? Here's Nancy Cordes.
No matter how often it happens, we are still surprised every time.
I have acted in a way that violates my obligations to my family.
I could have probably thrown up. Like, I was just sick.
Whether it's breaking their vows or, in Spitzer's case, potentially breaking the law, psychiatrist David McDowell says philandering politicians tend to forget. Once you run, you can't hide.
The people that are squeaky clean almost always have some place that's dirty. The people that are very pious usually have something to hide.
Big city mayors, members of Congress, presidents, and presidential candidates. Why would they let sex jeopardize a position they worked so hard to win?
Sometimes people who are very powerful feel as if they're exempt from the law. They may cut corners and feel as if they can get away with it.
I did something for the worst possible reason, that just because I could.
And there at their side, almost always, are the wives. showing support in the face of something that seems unforgivable, as Silda Spitzer did yesterday.
She looked awful, like, you know, your heart went out to her, which if he was appealing for that, then yes, but I can't imagine even asking her to do that after what he put her through already.
I can only think that ambition, their own personal ambition, is part of why they stick by these men, because they are accomplished women in their own right. And so why would a Hillary Clinton or a Silda stand by her man and allow herself to be humiliated unless there was something in it for her?
Wendy Vitter, whose senator husband David paid a prostitute, had a different explanation.
Like all marriages, ours is not perfect. None of us are.
But even if their families forgive, in today's video universe, it's virtually impossible for anyone to forget.
He'll have to do more now than pay a little fine, 'cause Elliot Spitzer is love client number 9.
Nancy Cordes, CBS News, New York.
And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you again tomorrow. Good night.